It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission is to inspire, our mission is to empower, and our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, the hardworking entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Julia, who's in the building. Julia, I got it right first, right?
You did.
Julia, okay. I thought I did, and then I second guessed myself. Right. Julia is in the building, and we'll be talking about from no to go. But what's up, Julia? How are you?
Oh, I'm ducky. It's a sunny day. Maybe a little too humid for me, but I'm great. Thank you.
Ducky. That's the first time I've ever heard the word ducky. What does ducky even mean?
Come on. No, you got really. How about peachy keen?
I heard of peachy keen. Yeah. I'm from Washington D.C.
It's the same. Ducky.
Okay.
Peachy keen. Same thing.
I love it. And shout out to Dr. Kim Warren Martin, who connected us together, by the way. What a wonderful collaborator she is. There are folks that are going to read your bio because it's right below. They're Googling you now. They're looking you up. But we're going to be talking about from no to go, right? And there's a subtitle to that. But I want you to talk for a moment about why we struggle as human beings doing things that are uncomfortable. Or I should say just expanding our comfort zone, and sometimes being open to new ideas or ideas from folks that might not have the same background as us, the same look as us, the same educational as we do. So here's the question. Why do we struggle with doing things that are uncomfortable these days?
Well, think back. Do you have children?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when they were first born, newborns, they were tightly swaddled?
Mm-hmm.
Because they need to feel secure. So what happens when we talk about human beings, we like our security, we like our predictability. We like to feel as if we are in control of our circumstances, which is kind of ridiculous because we have no control over anything other than ourselves. So we cling to that which we know. And honestly, people stay in their comfort zone because it's predictable and they don't have to think. They don't have to have the courage of saying, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to step outside my comfort zone without realizing that it really diminishes another possibility from which they can draw wisdom and experience that can contribute to their memory bank. Think about every experience that we have is part of our memory bank. And so if you don't do something, you rob yourself of an experience. And oh, by the way, sometimes when you step out of your comfort zone and you try something that you really like, then it now falls into the category of FOMO. You have a fear of missing out, of doing that again. So it's kind of ironic, but it's because people prefer predictability and knowing what their circumstances are, because it gives them a modicum of control, or in my opinion, a false sense of control. Did that answer your question?
That you're right on, and one of your passions is helping individuals overcome past obstacles so they can be responsible for their own success. Take a moment and share with us, when did that passion first begin? When was the first time you knew that was something you wanted to do? And number two, why is it so near and dear to you? Because you could be doing other things with your time right now.
Yeah, I could be sitting on the beach, going here, going there,
sailing, and you could still be ducky doing that.
Yeah, but I would actually be bored doing that, to tell you the truth. I think, it's fun for a while. I think, and I was thinking about this. I think it started very early on. From my early childhood experiences. In some ways, I understood what it was to be the other. I lived a very unconventional life, especially growing up, and that caused me to understand that I was often overlooked for a lot of things that I brought to the party. You know, I was dyslexic. I couldn't read well. And there's all sorts of stuff that added to it. And so, you know, it's like the notion of giving everybody the opportunity to thrive, no matter who they are. That, you know, my own personal experience coupled with, you know, having a strong part of my background focused on social justice. My mother was very social justice-ly oriented. In fact, I remember one time I grew up in New Jersey, and I was coming in from New York City one evening, and the Penn Station was in Newark, New Jersey, and I was waiting for the bus to go up to where I grew up, and I had a book with me called "Are You My Mother?" because I was studying speech pathology and audiology in college, in my undergraduate degree. And I had this book, and there was a little girl and her mom standing next to me. And I wanted to give her the book just because it was a good little book. And I didn't. And I described the situation to my mother when I got home, and she said, "Why didn't you give her the book? What was stopping you from doing it?" So there's that also generosity of spirit. Plus, I tutored in Newark, New Jersey when I was in high school and so forth. So it's just bread in the bone, so to speak. And I can't walk away from it. I cannot walk away from it. I mean, I had an experience. I mean, human suffering to me is like, it doesn't matter if it's human suffering, animal suffering. I remember when I was in college, my brother and I were walking around the Boston Commons, and there was a squirrel who was injured, whose paw was injured, and it hurt my heart to see this little squirrel, and my brother thought I was totally out of my mind. But I'm moved by stuff like that. What can I say? You know, everybody deserves to thrive.
Everyone deserves to thrive. How important is that? And then you not only took it as a personal, but you also transferred it over to the corporate space. And I say corporate space, I'm using that term loosely because I understand you also work with organizations, you work with nonprofits, you work with companies, and you know some folks are much bigger companies are corporate. My question to you is two parts. One, for the person that's listening now, that they're saying, "Yeah, I'm part of that corporate group, Shay, whatever that means these days." And I want to talk about as a leader, what are one or two or three skills that we need to expand our comfort zones as a leader, me just an individual, to be able to, before we get to the organization, what is something that I can do, right? So I can be more forward thinking, I can be more open, and I can be more inclusive. I'll use that word if I can, at whatever level you are. And if you're listening right now, you're home and you manage a team, this is going to be helpful. If you're someone that might be, I don't know, they call it an individual contributor, you're like, "Well, I don't really have a team, Shay, but I got virtual people that got to still work with me." This is going to help you. We all can benefit. So question is, what are one, two, or three things that we can do as leaders to be more open, to be more inclusive?
Well, let's go back to the notion from no to go. And the subtitle to that is opening the door to unimaginable opportunities, because all we know is what we know. So we automatically say no to somebody who doesn't look like us or doesn't come from our circle. We automatically say no to new ideas that in fact may challenge our own thinking. We automatically say no to experiences or opportunities that take us outside our comfort zone. So it's almost like it's a knee-jerk reaction. So in order to deal with that, in order to overcome that, number one, you have to be aware of yourself. You have to be able to know, to observe yourself doing it and say, "Wait a minute." And then the next step to it is having curiosity. Rather than saying no or dismissing somebody because they don't necessarily look like you or think like you, ask a question. Be curious. Well, tell me more. Ask a very simple question of tell me more, what you're thinking on that, or why do you see it that way? Let people talk about their point of view. Because in the end, two things happen. One is there's a co-creative process where there's a synthesis of different perspectives. Two, I forgot my second point. As to what it does. Oh, and two, it adds to your wisdom bank, and it helps people feel as if they have a voice. The second thing is to understand that you don't know, all you know is what you know is what you know. And that's why it's important to ask a lot of questions from people who may have a different point of view. Again, it's that curiosity. The willingness to collaborate. In other words, give up control a little bit. Let somebody else help you participate in your life. A friend of mine once said to me, this was on a personal level, your friends need to be needed. And if you're working with people as a manager, or even individually within your family or your circle of friends, people want to participate. They want to collaborate, and it helps them feel as if they are part of your life. They feel empowered, they feel recognized, they feel honored. Another piece to it is understand that people have different communication styles. We all do. It's like social styles. Just because something doesn't sound like what you're used to hearing, or the language may be slightly different, or the description may be something that you're not aware of, honor the fact that that is a valid form of communication for that individual, and expand your awareness around understanding and being open to that. It's being empathetic. Empathy, I heard this wonderful definition on Hidden Brain, which is a show on NPR. And the person was saying empathy is honoring people for what I'm paraphrasing, honoring people's experience for what their experience is. In other words, allowing them to experience what their experience is, as opposed to saying, no, that's wrong. That perspective is wrong. It's like somebody would say to me, well, that's your perspective. Yeah, that's my perspective, because that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm experiencing. As opposed to dismissing it, I say, well, help me understand where that comes from. All of this takes courage. You have to be courageous to ask questions, because it puts you in a vulnerable position. It can communicate, depending upon you, it can communicate a sense of vulnerability in that, oh, I don't know that, or showing your ignorance. I'm going to say that in air quotes. So it's all about courage. It's all about empathy. It's all about curiosity. It's all about sharing, letting people participate. If you're a leader, it's important to have people engaged in the process. It's important to ask questions for clarification purposes. It's important to be able to step out of your own comfort zone, because by asking a question, you are now outside your comfort zone. By entertaining new possibilities, you're outside your comfort zone. And trusting in yourself. And again, I am an adjunct professor at a local university. And one of the things I say when I teach undergraduate students particularly is, I'm here to fill up your reservoir of dots. The more dots you have in your reservoir, the more connecting points you have, the richer your perspective. If you're an entrepreneur, the more experiences you have, the good, bad, and the ugly, fill that reservoir of dots. And in fact, as an entrepreneur or as a really good leader, you want as many dots in that reservoir as possible. Did that answer?
They're listening. They're like, wow, that's powerful, Shay. Who is this person? Like, what is her story? She gave us a little bit here, a little bit there, but what's her origin story that gave her the depth of experience she has, and that also gave her the wisdom? So we get the mom was one of the focal points. But here's the question. Take a moment, maybe a minute or two if you want, or three, and kind of share, who are you? I mean, now the audience is leaning in. They're like, whoa, Shay, I see the bio, but some folks read the bio. Somebody's cooking dinner right now. Somebody's probably in the car right now. Someone's listening to it in their AirPod in their ears right now. They're like, wow, who is Julia? Take a moment and tell them a little about who you are, please.
So I had this experience, in my final year, in my senior year of undergraduate work, where I understood there was more to life than what I was living. There was I had, and this is a very strange experience, but I was with a group of people, and this is drug-free, who opened my eyes to understanding that there was an awareness that was actually my birthright. That every human being has the right to be that aware. And that set me on a journey to open that door of awareness. And so I did. I traveled abroad. People probably don't want to hear this. I did a lot of drugs to open that door. I went to India, and to this day, I still meditate, and I'm still with the teacher that I connected with many years ago. It's that commitment to being that aware that allowed me to acquire a lot of wisdom, because I opened myself up to that. I've had a lot of experiences in my life that allowed me, again, filling up the reservoir of dots. The other thing is that, I'm lucky. There's this kind of bane and blessing to being dyslexic, because I really do have I was miserable on my SAT scores, miserable, because reading comprehension is not my thing. But I'm a visual, and I can see see things in patterns. So I'm able to connect what seems to be disparate dots, and being able to leverage that. So, for example, I'm about ready to reveal my age. It became apparent to me, I don't know if anybody even remembers this, CD-ROM discs.
What? No, I do. I'm joking.
I know. Well, you've had a lot of experience, but in corporate America, they did not have CD-ROM players in their computers. And it was when the commercial market started embracing CD-ROMs, was when it was brought into corporate. It was the same thing with video production. Once it was being used extensively in the home, VCRs, that's when it was adopted internally to corporations. Now, who in the world would notice that? That was something that I noticed. So once something is big in the consumer marketplace, you can bet it's going to be big internal to an organization. So that's an example of how I put pieces together. So I've just been lucky in being able to see patterns and connect the dots, and also being courageous enough to get into situations and to experience things that not everybody would put themselves through. I did not, when I graduated from college, I did not do the typical thing of going directly into a job. I didn't. I spent my 20s in figuring out who I am in relationship to the universe. And I am of the belief, somebody once said to me, "Are you having a midlife crisis?" And I said, "God, every day is a midlife crisis for me." Because it's that moment in time when you say, who am I? What am I here to do? That's what happens for midlife crises. So I believe that everybody goes through a midlife crisis. For me, it was early on in my life. For other people, it's, when the kids leave the house or when they retire. It's like, who the hell am I? And what am I here to do? So it's like every day is like that for me, of like, oh, and that sounds burdensome, but it's actually very exhilarating.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. That was good. That was really good. We have a segment here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show that I like to ask the question. It might be an unfair question, but it's my favorite, which is, of all the mentors you've had on this journey of life, you had so many. If you had to just pick out and grab one mentor and just one idea from that mentor that you could share with us and you, the audience, for those that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what's going to happen. You get to lean in like, whoa, I get to take an idea from a mentor of Julia's who I may never meet, but I get to take that one idea and it could change my life. So what's one idea? And for those that are new, welcome aboard. You're going to be blessed. So what's one idea that you have gleaned from any of your mentors that you can share with us?
Okay. I've had multiple mentors. So on a personal level, I have, he's still my mentor, a gentleman by the name of Prem Rawat. And his whole message is, listen, you got to connect inside with yourself because therein lies the wisdom. I remember once he said, now's the time to experience every millimeter of your growth. I need to, because when I experience that, then it adds to my wisdom bank. So that's one mentor. Another mentor professionally was my former manager. And he was the VP of HR for an organization that I worked for. And he said something to me that was really interesting. We would go out to lunch periodically, and at that time, I created a whole new product for the organization, and I wasn't going to get a cut of the action. It became a whole new profit center for them. Anyway, he said to me, there's some people who are really good in a corporate environment, and there are other people who are really free spirited. And I just looked at him and I said, Ron, are you going to fire me? And he said, no, not at all. But I just want you to be in an environment where you can really fly. And that was really powerful to me. And of course, I had a plan anyway to transition. But when he said that, I said, oh, okay, perfect timing.
I love it.
So the point is to be in an environment where you can truly be who you are, untethered, full bore. Like just recently, I started thinking about myself. I said, you know what? I'm really a badass. I'm going to own it. So I'm owning my badassness.
And I'm going to second it. I second it. Indeed, you are. Indeed, you are. We have a segment here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show called Today is My January 1st. And for those folks that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can go ahead and say those words right now. Today, I know you waited. Today is my January 1st. And for those new folks, welcome aboard, by the way. We're going to encourage you to go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. You can type in at I am Che Brown. And once you get there, just hit the subscribe button, or maybe you download the podcast, and we'd love to have you aboard. But today is my January 1st, represents our personal mantra. It means a do-over. It means a fresh start. It means the past, no matter what the past is, it no longer equals the future. That today is your January 1st. Happy New Year to you, by the way. And my question over to Julie is that when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And what was one of your January 1st moments that you had to restart?
Oh, especially as an entrepreneur, because I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time in different iterations. And one of the things that I always have known that as an entrepreneur I need to do is the whole notion of reinvention, and being adaptable according to, especially in the work I do, to be adaptable to what the needs of the marketplace are. So one of the things I would do differently, because when I started as an entrepreneur, I was great hubris. I had the best things since sliced bread. And there was absolutely, I was going to build a company that was multi-million dollars. I'm going to sell it and so forth and so on. And there was hubris behind that, which excluded a lot of sources of support. So, that arrogance really got in my way. And I honestly think that as an entrepreneur, you kind of need that when you go out into the world, that you have the best thing since sliced bread. But the reality is you need to know your market. And you can have a great idea, but if there's no market for it, you're not even on the bleeding edge. You're nowhere. But, for me, I was always on the bleeding edge. I was always one step ahead of the world in many ways. And that has hurt me. So it's doing more due diligence over what I am doing. That's how I would start over again. And the other is that I would be more consistent with a formal advisory board. Because, again, I go back to what I said earlier, all I know is what I know. And when you have multiplicity of perspectives, then what you know gets expanded. So that's what I would do. Tone down the hubris, be more open to support as it comes along my way, and make sure I really have a strong advisory board.
Great. What type of clients are you taking on these days, if your firm's taking on any clients? And number two, as we come down the home stretch, how can folks best connect with you over and beyond this conversation?
The types of clients the corporate clients or the companies really are companies that want to thrive. They really want to elevate. They want to make sure that they attract and retain and engage top talent. They want to be sure that they have an innovative workplace. They want to be sure that they have a really good, solid brand in the marketplace to attract talent, to attract employees, and also to attract customers, and to really want to be innovative. Because in this rapidly changing world, especially with AI, you have to be incredibly adaptive or agile. And in order to do that, you have to have a spirit of entrepreneurship. So you always have to be scanning the horizon. And in order to have an agile environment, you have to have, or an agile company, you have to have a really healthy culture. You have to have clearly defined values and a vision. You have to have fully engaged employees. You have to entertain differences in perception and perspective in order to create and innovate, and know that you're going to fail. You're going to fail, but failure is honorable. And so to help organizations be okay with creating a learning environment where failure is an opportunity to learn something. Because in the end, it will create a very agile and profitable organization. From an individual coaching perspective, it's really helping people, especially women, be able to articulate, to explain and own what they do well and their accomplishments, so that they can comfortably advocate for themselves, so that they make decisions in their lives that are based upon the extenuating circumstances, rather than going after work-life balance, which in my opinion, it does not exist, because balance means stress, as opposed to work-life integration. What are the pieces of your life that you want to integrate? So it's really giving people the words to be visible and the confidence to be visible, and then letting people know what you do and being confident enough in your ability to keep growing. So I have, companies are my best And then individual coaching is also another passion of mine. I just want to see people who are underappreciated thrive. I want them to be heard. I want them to be appreciated. As far as getting in touch,
And
go
is there
ahead.
a website that they can connect with you as well, or a place they can connect with you?
Yes, two ways. One is check out my website, which is forget about the W's. It's career-agility, AGILITY.com. Again, it's career-agility.com. And my email is Julia, that's with an A, Julia, Geisman, GEISMAN, at career-agility.com. So those are the best ways of getting in touch with me. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm often to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can reach me through LinkedIn. That's where I do a lot of posting. That's actually where I spend most of my time because it's the target audience that I'm interested in connecting with. I am on podcasts periodically. I do webinars, and some of them are public. So if you do a search for me, you'll find it. I have excerpts of some of the webinars I do on YouTube. So if you do a search for me, you'll see the excerpts. So if that's the best way, that's the best way.
Fantastic. Well, first, let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Appreciate you and Dr. Kim Warren Martin for putting us together and collaborating. You're amazing. So thank you so much.
And thank you for your interest in including me. I love being included.
Thank you so much. And thank you, the viewer. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you haven't connected with us, go over to YouTube. Go and subscribe over at I am Che Brown, over at I am CHE Brown, or find us on Instagram. That's our jam. And make sure you stay in the conversation. I wait every night to say these words as you're in the conversation. If you're here every night at 11 p.m., I love to say this, and that you are awesome, that you are amazing, that you are enough all by yourself, and that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason, your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is still yet to come. With that being said, my name, in case you forgot, is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. Remember, time is long. Life is short. You got to live in that moment, and you got to make it count. God bless, and we wish you success. Thanks a lot, Julia. We appreciate you. We're out of here. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Peace.